Small businesses must submit different types of tax forms each year to report payments and taxpayer identification numbers. Two common types of tax forms are Tax NEC to report payments to non-employees, and Tax MISC to report payments for rents, royalties, and other miscellaneous payments. The worst error on a tax form is a missing or incorrect taxpayer identification number. If you filed tax forms electronically, you must correct them electronically. You can mail corrections on paper forms if you originally filed them by mail. After the end of each year, small business owners must prepare tax forms to report payments to non-employees and others. If you make a mistake on a tax form, it's important to get it corrected for both the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, and the payee. This article gives an overview of tax forms and the process for correcting them and reporting the corrected payments. Where do you send tax forms? Each tax form has several copies. Copy A for the IRS, copy 1 for state tax agency. If the state requires income tax, copy B for the recipient, payee, copy 2 for the recipient, for their state income tax return, copy C for the payer, your small business. The due dates are different for payees and the I. Each due date is for either January or February of the year following the tax year. Due dates may change in a year when the due date is a weekend or holiday. In this case, the due date is the next business day. Deadlines for Forms Tax, MISC and Tax NEC. Here are some important deadlines to remember for Tax, MISC and Tax NEC forms. Copy A of Form Tax, MISC is due to the IRS on February 28 or March 31 if filed electronically, and due to payees by January 31. Form Tax NEC is due to the IRS and to payees by January 31. If you are mailing tax forms to the IRS, you must include a transmission form, Form Tax. You don't need this form if you are filing electronically. One for due dates for other types of tax forms. See the chart on pages 26 to 28 of the IRS General Instructions document. Filing state tax reports. While some states require you to submit a copy of tax forms for state income tax purposes, many do not because they participate in the combined federal-state filing program. Check with your state's tax agency to see if it participates in this program. Filing electronically. You can file most types of tax forms electronically using the IRS Filing Information Returns Electronically System, FIRE system, if you have the proper software. You can also mail tax forms to the IRS directly, or you can use one of the IRS-approved private delivery services. The mailing address depends on your business location. See page 7 of the IRS General Instructions document. Correcting common tax filing errors. The IRS has procedures for filing corrected paper returns or returns filed electronically. Correcting paper returns. Type 1 errors are for incorrect money amounts, codes, or checkboxes, or if a return was filed when it didn't need to have been filed. To make the correction, follow these steps. Prepare a new return and enter an X in the corrected box at the top of the form. Prepare a new transmittal form tax and include it with your mailing to the IRS Submission Processing Center for your location. Type 2 errors are for a missing payee name or a missing or incorrect payee taxpayer identification number, TIN. Here are the steps for Type 2 corrections. Prepare a new information return, entering an X in the corrected box at the top of the form. Enter 0 for all money amounts. Prepare a new transmittal form tax and enter one of the following phrases in the bottom margin: filed to correct TN, filed to correct name, filed to correct return, file form tax, and copy A of the return with the IRS Submission Processing Center designated for your state, but don't include a copy of T. For more details on this process, see the chart on page 12 of the IRS General Instructions document. If you have filed duplicate reports or have a large amount of incorrect information, contact the IRS Information Reporting Customer Service site for further instructions. Correcting electronically filed returns. If you find an error in an electronically filed tax form, you must file a corrected return. Don't file the original form again, and file only the specific returns that were in error. If you omitted a return from a previous filing, file it as an original return. To report a missing or incorrect taxpayer ID number, TIN, you must write to the IRS and include name and address of payer, type of error, tax year, payer TN, transmitter control code, TCC, type of return, number of payees, filing method, paper or electronic, whether federal income tax was withheld. 3T. Check with your tax professional for help with this process. The IRS issues penalties for not filing required tax forms or not sending these forms to recipients on time. In addition, you can be penalized if the tax form has significant uncorrected errors, such as missing or incorrect TINs. What if you receive an incorrect tax? If you received an incorrect tax, MISC or tax NEC form, notify the payer immediately to explain the error and request a new form. If you don't receive a new tax before the time you're required to file your tax return, check with a licensed tax preparer to see how to deal with the incorrect form. Errors on tax forms should always be corrected as soon as possible, in part because the error could affect the recipient's tax return. There are also penalties for filing a tax form that includes an incorrect TN, which is one error that should be corrected immediately. The IRS doesn't set a specific deadline for correcting tax forms, but an amended tax return, Form 1040-X, must be filed within 3 years after the date of filing of the original return or within 2 years after the date the tax was paid. When you have made corrections to one or more tax forms, complete a new tax form for each recipient. Mail copy A and the corrected transmission form, Form Tax, to the IRS Processing Center. Give copy 2 and copy B to the recipient. Keep both copies of copy C, the incorrect one and the corrected one, for your business records.